Hello, welcome back to my channel. I am Noelle. I am a photographer, an influencer, content creator, all of the above, and today I'm going to be talking to you about my 4 most common asked questions on my TikTok and Instagram accounts because they get asked repeatedly and I want to have some place that I can send people just to get the answers to their very common questions, rightfully so common questions. So, without further ado. Today we are going to be talking specifically about taking pictures and the most common questions that I get about taking pictures. So there's 4 of them that I decided were most important and that I get really commonly. The first one is, how do you set up for photos? Now it really depends if I'm taking my own photos or if someone's taking my photos for me, but to start out with, my first piece of advice is to find an inspo picture. Make sure that you know what you're trying to go for. So if someone's taking your pictures for you, you can show them the inspo picture and it makes it 110 times easier to explain the vibes you're going for and the picture that you're going for when you have an inspo picture to show someone. Now when you're taking them alone, my setup looks a little different because you kind of have to work with where you can put your tripod, and if you're out in public, that makes a difference. If you're at home, that makes a difference. But basically my super simple setup to take my own pictures is I have my tripod, I use my phone or my camera. So if I'm using my camera, I connect my camera to Canon Connect, or it's called Camera Connect. It's for Canon cameras. I'm not sure if it works with other cameras, but I know each camera normally has an app. So basically the app will help you control your camera from your phone. So when I'm taking pictures, I'm pressing the button to take the picture on my phone, but it's taking it from my camera. Now if I'm taking it from my phone, I use Lens Buddy. Lens Buddy is super easy. It will take interval timing photos for you, so you can set it up. It will count down from 5 and you can set it up to take one every second for a certain amount of pictures, or until you stop it, or it could be every like half a second. There's different settings. I normally use every half second because I like getting those really candid photos, and that kind of helps you get those in between shots when you're moving, making them look more candid. So if I'm taking them on my own, I either use Camera Connect or Lens Buddy. It's difficult to answer the question, how do you do setup, because I use a tripod and I set it up exactly how I want the picture to turn out. So normally when I'm taking photos by myself, I am taking them at home if they're on my camera, because I think I'm not like super comfortable taking pictures on my own from my camera on my tripod like in public, because I do live downtown. But I will take them from Lens Buddy on my phone in public. So in that case, I always use the back camera. I think that's like a big mistake people use when they're using Lens Buddy, is they're using the front camera so that they can see what they're doing, which makes sense. Photos come out more blurry than if you were to use the back camera. So what I would recommend doing, setting up with the back camera, take a few practice shots, make sure you can kind of like measure on the ground where you want to be in your practice shots so that you kind of know what you're doing, because you can't actually see the photos when you're taking them like you could if you were on the front camera. But that is just my recommendation. Okay, so that is the first question that I always get. What is your setup? Every setup for photos looks completely different. It's just you gotta take practice shots, use that inspo picture to make sure that you are getting the vibes that you are going for, XYZ. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. It's hard to answer that question because every photo is completely different. How do you edit? Lightroom. I edit in Lightroom. I personally edit on my laptop just because I like editing on my laptop more, but I do know you have to pay for Lightroom if you have it on your laptop, and it's completely free if you do it on your phone. So if you're taking pictures on your phone, if I take pictures on my phone, I edit on my mobile app. The Lightroom mobile app's completely free, unless you upgrade for certain like tools, then you have to pay for it, but the regular just editing tools that you would need to edit a photo, all free. So highly recommend using Lightroom, downloading Lightroom. The difference between Lightroom and other apps is they're not filters, they're presets, and they're way more customizable. So you can change specific colors in your photos. There's a lot more you can do on Lightroom than you can on other apps. So if you want that kind of custom look, you can make them look exactly how you want them to. Lightroom's a great app. Otherwise, there's a lot of apps like Visco, Tezza, different things like that that have filters that are pre-made for you. So it just is a lot easier. And if you want that aesthetic kind of look where everything goes together, but you don't really want to figure out Lightroom, those are 2 great apps as well. What camera do I use? So I have 2 different cameras, and then I use my phone. I have the iPhone 13 Max, whatever the big one is. So that's what I use for when I'm shooting on my phone. My cameras, I have the Canon M50. That is the camera that I first bought. It's a great starter camera. I have a 22mm prime lens that I use often, an 11 to 22 wide angle lens, and a 50 for, the 50 is a prime lens as well, for my Canon M50. And then I have a Canon ESOR, and I use my 50mm prime lens on my Canon ESOR because that's the only lens that I have that fits on there. It's actually not meant for that camera. I have an adapter for it. It's just the Canon ESOR lenses are so ridiculously expensive that I haven't wanted to buy one yet. The goal would be to buy one before I end up leaving for travels or whatever, but right now it's just like, they're like, I think minimum starting like $2,500, and I want to say the 50 was like a couple hundred, so big price difference, and it works for now. But those are my cameras that I use. I would highly recommend the Canon ESOR if you are looking for a beginner camera, you've never used a camera before. Super user friendly, and it's super easy to figure out. That's what I learned on, so that would be my recommendation for that. And I believe they're around $700 with a kit lens. It comes with a 15 to 45mm. So that's a perfect starter camera and lens. And lastly, how do you get comfortable taking pictures alone? I went on a podcast yesterday, and this is one of the questions that they asked me, because so the podcast was interviewing different women that are in business, and it's if you're not into picture taking, it's kind of hard to understand. But the main things I would say, start taking pictures at home where nobody's watching you. You can get comfortable in front of the camera, learn your angles, figure that all out at home without the pressure of anyone watching you, and then you can try to do it in public. But basically what I would say is always get an inspo picture. It's a lot easier to figure out if you like the photo when you can kind of base it on a photo that you're looking at. It just makes life 10 times easier. When you don't have a vision of what you're going for, it's kind of hard to create a creative photo when you don't really know what you're going for. So I would say start with taking pictures at home, use an inspo picture, and learn your angles. Your angles are what you feel most confident in. It does not matter. You cannot ask anyone else what your angles are. They might have a completely different opinion, but you know the parts of your body that you like the most. Those are the parts that you want to show off. My guy friends make fun of me because my go-to pose is always turned around half like this, because that is the angle that I like. I like my backside a lot more than I like my front side, and that's just what I feel more comfortable doing. So that's kind of my go-to thing. Every time I'm like, I don't know what to do, I'm like, that's just my go-to pose. But you figure out what you're most confident in, the parts of your body that you like the most, and that's how you're gonna pose, that's how you're gonna show off. If you have specific questions, like say you're like, okay, I really like my straight front view, how do I pose? Feel free to leave a comment in the comments of the section of this video, and I can answer specifically like how to pose for what you're most confident in. If that's a fun video that you guys would like to see, I would love to do that. But getting comfortable with your angles and figuring that out, go in front of a mirror, figure it out, do it while you're alone. The key to being comfortable while doing this stuff is figure it out while you're alone, and then it's gonna get easier to do it in public or in front of people when they're watching, because it's inevitable if you're out in public, someone's gonna see. So getting comfortable doing it when you're at home and alone is my biggest tip for getting comfortable in front of the camera. Or have someone take your pictures that you are super comfortable with. Like my mom takes my pictures, my best friend takes my pictures. If a guy ever asked me to take my pictures, I'd probably be so awkward. It really, really matters if you are comfortable or not, which leads me into my last point. Picking outfits that you feel confident in. If you are wearing something that you do not feel confident in, it's going to show in your pictures. My go-to thing is a flowy dress that is singed in the waist, because it shows off your curves a little bit, but yet it's not gonna show off every single curve in your body that maybe you're insecure about or something. So I always go with a flowy dress that has some sort of waist in it to show off like your waist, but not every single part of your body that maybe you are not completely confident in. At least that's my experience. So like that's my go-to outfit if I ever think of something a little loose. A lot of the times when clothes are really tight, you're not confident and you're not comfortable, and that's going to show in your pictures. So make sure that you are comfortable in the clothes that you are wearing. That's a huge part of it too. those are my top 4 questions that I get asked on TikTok on the daily. I see them all the time, so I hope this helps. If you have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. It's been great talking to you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.